Good evening, Cubes of the Cash. Gary B, the casual comic guy, and tonight, guys, in the co-host seat, we have Nick's Kix and Comix. Good evening, sir. How are you, bud?
I'm much better now that I'm at a rave. I thought I was just coming on to talk to Derrz, but I'm in a rave right now.
It's always a rave with me, Nick.
I don't know.
I am a big, I'm a big techno EDM guy.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, the intro is a banger, bro. I love that.
From C-List E-Man, or just E-Man now. World of Geek. And of course, you're hearing them, you're seeing them. Our guest of honor tonight, Adam Derrz from Collecting with Derrz. How you doing tonight?
Good, man. It's always an honor to be here. I appreciate your time.
Oh, no problem. Well, as we'd like to do on my channel, before we get going, a quick introduction of you to the audience and those catching on the rewind who may not know who you are. They'll get to know more about you this evening, and a quick overview of your channel, sir.
All right. Well, my name's Adam, Collecting with Derrz. I'm one of the newer guys in the community. I've only been collecting comics since about 2019, but I've been a nerd and into the comic culture my whole life. I'm a 90s kid. I collected as a kid, but then, kind of fell out for a long time. But I really appreciate being here. I appreciate the open arms of the community. I try and spread a lot of positivity on my channel and kind of a positive theme, kind of trying to be a light in somebody's darkness. I've dealt with depression and anxiety in the past. And then I'm bringing comic content and then slab content. I just got my first eBay slab I put up. And then I'm always doing my Friday positivities and then hanging out on the lives. So it's basically what I'm bringing.
Very nice. And, of course, we are going to, before we say hi to the chat, the links to these fine gentlemen is, of course, in the description below. So if you don't happen to be subbed up to anybody here, sub them all up, follow them on the IG, follow them on the YouTubes, and have fun with their content. So let's say hi to the chat. So beating Las Cruces in tonight.
What?
Yes, Stephanie, thank
Madam
you.
Blaster.
Nice to see you, Steph. All right, Las Cruces, good evening, sir. Psychedelic Comics, good evening, buddy. Seth11, nice to see you as always.
Hey, stay safe tonight, Seth.
And we have Daniel in. Daniel, nice to see you, buddy. Hope all is well with you, sir. And we have Lady Derrz.
Hello.
Right. And we have Brother John Comics. Good evening. Dale Suspense. Good evening.
Happy belated birthday.
Comics. How you doing tonight? Every time I see Dope, all I think of if you guys haven't been catching Dope shorts lately, just whole greatness on those shorts.
Mm-hmm.
Just nothing but great stuff. All right, so let's turn it over towards you and get go. Steven's here. Good evening, Steven. Nice to see you. So we'll start out again. Like I said, we'll ask you a few basic questions first, so people can get to know you. For those who haven't before, those catching on the rewind who will go, "Who's this Adam guy?" And then we'll get a little more in depth.
For sure.
So the first thing that you mentioned is you really started collecting in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So what sparked it then? You said you were in and out as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And before we get into the childhood stuff, why 2019 and what brought you into the fold of comics?
So again, I come from a big gaming background. I've always been a gamer, but I've always collected figures, anything with like nerd culture. I've always watched the movies and everything. But it was right about when kind of COVID started hitting, kind of ramping up. I went and visited my mom, who lives down in Kentucky, who about 6 or 7 hours south of me, and I was going to go visit her before things started getting bad and everything. And she lives up in, her and her husband have a log cabin like up on like 80 acres on a mountain. So internet's a little spotty up there. So I was like, you know what? On the way down there was a comic shop in Cincinnati on the way. And I was like, I'm just going to stop there, grab some reading material, just check it out. And I went in there. And I'm not sure if it must have just came out because it was on their newer books, but it was the Batman 3 Jokers. The issue 1, 2, and 3, they just came out. So I grabbed those 3, and then I grabbed one of the Spawn #1 trades, collecting the first like 6 or 7 issues just to catch up on it. And I took those down there and I read them. And a little bit before that, I was watching like comic content on YouTube. Some of the bigger guys, like Bueller and Comic Book Corner 2.0, and just keeping up with what's going on in the comic industry. And as soon as I got back, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go get a pull list, and kind of it's been off to the races for there. And now I'm a forever collector from this point on.
All right, so you decided, well, you got into comics. You come from a gaming background.
Mhm.
So, what made you start a comic channel instead of a gaming channel?
So for me, gaming is a very toxic community. It is very, very toxic, and that's just not something I kind of want to wrap my mindset around because I really want to be positive vibes and all that, and kind of stay with that theme. And I just knew if I was going to be posting gaming content, I knew I could blow up quick. That's kind of where the market is a lot of the times. But again, it's a lot of negativity and a lot of toxic stuff. So I got my buddy Scotty introduced me to Comic Book Corner 2.0 on Facebook, and we were talking through there, and that's where I linked up with like Trev and a couple other people. And he's like, "Hey man, come hang out with Brian LCS on a Saturday morning show." Started hanging out there for like a week or two, and then Scotty's like, "You know what, man, if you're getting comics," and because I was posting them on the Facebook group every week, he's like, "Why not you just make some videos talking about them?" So I just started making some videos, and it just kind of evolved from there.
Nice. And I used to be big into watching that too. Like the gaming community is, there's a lot of good stuff out there. And I used to
Hmm.
watch IGN a lot, especially when they had the
Hmm.
PlayStation podcast with Colin Moriarty and Greg.
Yep.
And then they split off into kind of funny games, which I used to follow a lot. I kind of broke off of kind of funny when the whole Colin Moriarty fallout happened.
Hmm.
And I mostly followed him just because the guy told a joke. I don't think he should get canceled from something that
Right.
he helped create. So that
Hmm.
kind of, but that kind of toxicity is kind of what eventually got me out of watching the game journalism quite a bit because I used to
Right.
really enjoy it. I used to like
Hmm.
the coverage, but like you said, look, I got into this community by accident, and it's been great ever since. I mean, how am I not going to love a community where I meet people like Nick, like all my usual suspects, like
Hmm.
Jimmy, like Jason, like Chip Getler, Digger Jam, just Ben,
Everybody.
all these, all these great people that are just so welcoming and inviting, and it makes for someone that collected on and off through the whole life. I've never enjoyed collecting as much as I enjoy it now, and it seems like being in comics right now is so much more than just being a reader. Uh,
Hmm.
do you agree?
Yeah, 100%. Because being growing up in the '90s, you would just grab the foil covers, the Spider-Mans, whatever, and just kind of read through them. But it wasn't keeping up with me. I didn't really have a passion for comics until I started reading Spawn, and that's when I followed it through. But being in this community makes me have a huge passion. It makes me so excited to read comics. It makes me so excited for what's coming. It makes me excited to talk to people. The community that we're in, and especially the little comic community, the corner that we have, is like family to me. That is the biggest thing. Everybody has been super open arms. Everybody, because like I said, I'm kind of a newer guy, so anything pre like 1990 or like 85 is super sketchy or fuzzy to me. So I really love that I can ask questions and just have the information there for me at all times.
Nice. Now, you said that you dipped into it a little bit when you were a kid. What's some of your earliest comic memories, and what heroes drew you into the genre? Now, you mentioned Batman, Three Jokers, but Spawn is your main character. How did that
Mhm.
come about?
So originally, my first like ever introduction to like superheroes or anything was cartoons. Of course, it was the X-Men cartoon, and then like Spider-Man is Amazing Friends, the original
Yes.
like '90s run. So that's what originally sparked my interest, and then from there I started reading a little bit of X-Men back in the day, and I was reading everything foil, all the 2099 Spider-Man 2099, Ravager 2099, stuff like that. But again, going back to my childhood, I was always kind of an outcast. My friends were always the outcast. I was the popular kid in school, but all my friends were the kids playing Dungeons and Dragons, not the popular kids. But that's always who I felt the most interesting, who I've connected with the most, and who's had the same passions as me. I was an anime kid back in the day and stuff like that. So when I started reading comics, I wanted to kind of find my own kind of thing, and that's where Spawn kind of came in. He reminded me a lot of Batman, kind of reminded me a lot of, Spider-Man and stuff like that. But he was definitely that outcast character. He wasn't the most popular character back in the day. He wasn't, that Superman, that Spider-Man, that Iron Man, that X-Men. He was more of the dark kid, and especially having a horror background and growing up loving horror movies, I instantly connected with the entire franchising universe.
Oh, nice. I got another Nick taking shots at me here. Look, Gary, on the wall, your favorite character. He is, of course, referring to Venom. Who, if I had all the Venom books, they would make a really nice fire for me.
I got the Funko Pop match right there.
But I do love the Mark Bagley art Venoms are just, and also gosh, he's one of my favorite. Eric Larson. I love Eric Larson on Spider-Man. So underrated in my opinion.
Right.
So you got into Spawn. You also got into The Walking Dead, which you and I have talked about privately before. And now, did you find out about The Walking Dead through the show? Because it sounds to me like you got into most of comic collecting through other forms of media, whether it's gaming or television or movies.
Exactly. So I watched the first, I think it was like 3 or 4 seasons, and then for some reason just completely fell out of it. I stopped watching it, and it just wasn't for me at the time, which I need to go back and completely watch from start to finish at this point. But I always had a super appreciation, always knew about the Walking Dead comic. I knew about what was going on in culture. I knew it was a huge phenomenon thing. But at that time, I wasn't really reading comics. So when I finally got back into comics, I would see the Walking Dead trades here and there, and it's all in black and white. And again, I can appreciate it for the art and the penciling and everything. But for me, if I'm going to read a comic, I'm really into it for the art. Especially if it's a zombie or horror book, I want that kind of blood and gore and shock effect in color. So I had no idea the Walking Dead Deluxe even existed until they were on issue probably like 35 or 36, and now I'm going back and completing the run, so I'm current. And basically at this point I'm just collecting every issue, and I'm just going to wait till it's done, and that way I can just blow through it. I can just have the full run, read it all in kind of like a week or two, and then get my take on it from there.
Nice. Well, and there right now is a great time for horror. There's so much good horror out there now too. Like The Approach is a book I'm enjoying. There's been just tons of great horror comics in the independents, and even Marvel and them and DC are starting to dip into it. You have Nice House on the Lake and a horror line at DC. You have Alien and Predator doing good things now at Marvel. So there's some fun stuff happening.
This winter, DC's doing this whole, I think it's winter or fall, they're doing this whole horror event. It's like their main thing going to be across the board is a horror theme.
Well, DC vs. Vampires just wrapped up, and that was
amazing. Yeah. It was one of my book of the year, except the final page of the issue.
And our buddy Digger Jim was a big fan of that.
The ending was not the best, but at the end of the day, it was still one of my best reads of the year last year.
So let's talk about your horror background, because I am also a huge horror guy. It may be out there. People may know about it.
No.
Nick picks on me for it all the time, especially for one movie. But I've watched horror since I was a little kid. I've always had a flavor and a taste for it. What kind of horror attracts you? Like, are you a slasher guy? Because I was never a slasher. I like the more supernatural or sci-fi horror, especially with a good deep story. But what kind of horror attracts you?
Across the board, really. I'm in it for the story. I was the kid that instead of watching cartoons when I was like 5 or 6, I was watching like Jason, Evil Dead. Because like I said, I'm 33. I was born in '90, so the 80s and like late 70s and the 80s time period intrigues me the most out of any time period, and basically close to my lifeline, because the culture, the colors, everything that was going on in the movies, it was amazing. So I always rock my Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I love a good cheesy horror movie. It could be bad, but at the end of the day,
Terror is one of my favorite cheesy ones.
Yep, it could be super cheesy and bad, but I also like a very good monster movie, as long as it's yeah, right.
I hear you, Cole.
As long as it's, I like a very good monster movie. As long as you don't get to see the monster the whole time. Like I'm a big Thing fan, John Carpenter, the Things fan. One of my favorite movies of all time.
We just became best friends.
One of my favorite movies of all time.
Oh, good Lord.
Nick's feeling outnumbered. Cause see, I don't know if you know Adam, but it's my favorite movie, my favorite horror movie by far. And,
Gary,
it's a movie
and
I
how
watch
often do you watch it, Gary?
minimum 5 times a week.
I'd say one at least once every few months for me. I dip into it. I love I love the animatronics and all the art styles that they used and everything back in the early days. Like I said, I'm a sucker for that whole time period.
Derrz,
Now-
I'm not sure if he caught that, Derrz. He said at least 5 times a week.
See, I don't watch any movie 5 times a week.
It's
Even
like
my
over a week.
even like my most favorite like movie or show of all time.
Dude, when
But-
I sit down to relax and I don't know what to put on, even if it's on in the background while I'm reading comics, it's on.
That's awesome. See, I gotta put my homie's YouTube videos on in the background. That way I can log through them or I get buried.
All right, so being a horror guy,
Mhm.
Alien or Aliens? Now, there's only one
Um,
right answer. So, I mean, you might be on the show for the next 45 minutes, or you might be off the show in the next 2. We'll see.
So just to make sure it's clear, you're talking about the Alien, the original one, and then
Yes.
Aliens would be everything after it.
Alien or its sequel, Aliens.
I would
Both good
say,
movies, but only one of them is superior.
man, I'd say the original. The OG's gotta
Yes,
get it.
it's
Mhm.
actually a true horror film.
Right. It's like it gives that, like I said, I mentioned, I don't like seeing the monster right away. I like seeing glimpses and snippets of it and it building up to it. So I think that did a really good job.
Now, I don't mind seeing the monster anyway. Sometimes I hate when they hide something in the dark the whole time. It just
Mhm.
becomes frustrating. If you show me the monster, but you can keep the monster interesting throughout. But I like movies also where the monster isn't necessarily the bad guy. Like
Right.
Creature from the Black Lagoon. That monster's
Mhm.
not necessarily the bad guy. And, stuff like that. The Thing, there is no bad guy in John Carpenter's The Thing. Everything in that
Mhm.
movie is trying to survive.
Yep.
So I kind of like the gray areas like that where it's just man against whatever and whatever against man. I like a
Mhm.
good survival horror too, when it's just
Yeah.
in isolation. But let's talk more about cartoons now. We're
Okay.
going to switch over to. So you said X-Men, the '90s,
Mhm.
Spider-Man, His Amazing Friends, which was one of my favorites, and ever since that cartoon, I've been a Firestar fan.
Nice.
And whenever I think of Iceman, I think of Iceman from that show.
The intro is what I always picture him. The opening cutscene is what I always picture him. Yep.
Yep, exactly, Nick.
Mhm.
I always wondered where the ice went.
Went right.
Well, that's a shit ton of ice.
Mm-hmm.
Right, or how
Just
he does it
destroying a
behind
whole
it.
block off the screen.
Oh, it's great fun though. Now
Mhm.
let's talk about villains. You like
Okay.
horror, so what are some of your favorite villains in comics?
Favorite villains in comics. So I'm starting to be a big Joker fan. But again, I've never been a DC guy until this year, really leading up to this year. So I'm really starting to get behind Joker on a lot of his books. And honestly, Venom, I like a good anti-hero. I'm not so much of a villain fan, but I love a good anti-hero. He's kind of like villain, lethal protector. He's not really a good guy, but he's not really out doing bad things purposely. But I mean, Venom was still eating people back in the day. But if it comes down to villains in comics, I'd have to give it to the iconic Sinister Six would be kind of my go-to for villains.
It's hard to beat the Sinister Six, especially it was like something that really wasn't done in comics. You had like the Legion of Doom, but like the Sinister Six they weren't against a whole other team. They were against one dude who had to survive.
Yep.
And that was always a fun dynamic.
I'm a big, Thanos, of course, Doctor Doom, those iconic characters. Darkseid, I'm becoming a big Darkseid fan because recently I've been binging a bunch of DC animation on HBO Max, so I'm starting to fall in love with Darkseid and Apocalypse and stuff like that.
It's funny because I buy a lot of movies on Vudu. I do a lot of digital content, and I just bought Constantine and the House of Mystery, which I watched a trailer. I'm like, I gotta watch this. It looks so
Constantine,
good.
great. I hope Keanu Reeves revitalizes that role.
Here's how old I am. I actually saw Constantine in the theater.
I don't think I've seen it in the theater, but I remember coming out because I love Constantine. I love magic. I love stuff like that in comics. So that movie was amazing.
Back then, Keanu Reeves was still super cool, and he had his resurgence right now. Like I can't wait to go see John Wick 4.
Oh, yep. Me and the girl are binge watching all the
I love the John Wicks.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But I was seeing Constantine as much for Rachel Weisz as anything else because
Right.
Rachel Weisz is just one of those, to me, one of those iconic beauties. You could put her in any age, and she's gorgeous.
It's Jennifer Aniston for me.
Yes, finally something we can agree on.
Nothing wrong with Aniston.
Hey, we like The Crow. I love The Crow too.
Rachel Weisz.
Oh, and I remember the first time I saw her in The Mummy, I was like, "Ooh!" Instant.
Brendan Fraser for life.
Manny, so Manny, those two movies. I don't know what it is about A24, but when I watch their horror movies, they do not connect with me at all. No, I thought Hereditary was just silly. I burst out laughing in the theater watching it, and everybody was, of course, looking at me weird. Thought it was ridiculous. The actors were great. But what was the other one? The one with Florence Pugh, Summer.
Was that the one she was just out? She caught flack for?
No, this was the cult movie. But I didn't see the Babadook though. I misread that, man. I do want to see the Babadook, but
I remember that when that came out, everybody was hyping that up.
But yeah, that one movie Florence was in when she was like with the call. Oh my gosh, I thought that one was ridiculous. Like I knew what was going to happen from the first couple frames of the movie, and then it just played out like everything. I'm like, wow, no surprises here. And I was, Midsummer. Thank you guys. And like it's so funny because so many people like that movie, and it's one of the most predictable movies I've ever watched in my life. I was so completely bored throughout that whole movie.
I haven't seen it.
And then the parts in it that were supposed to be shock value were just hilariously stupid to me. But I'm a really harsh horror critic. I love horror, but it's funny because I'll like the worst cheesy B movie horror that's out there. And then something that's well produced and well made, I'll watch it and have all these issues with it.
So I will hype up a movie that I went into with the least expectation ever, and it was Smile. And it was hyped up on like TikTok and social media. Like everybody was hyping it up like it was one of the best horror movies. And I'm like, there's no way. I went into it, and now it is probably top 5 on my list for best horror movies I've ever watched. And yeah, I loved it. I'm real good on the shock value too, and some of the scenes that had were insane. So I love that movie.
I enjoyed it, and I thought one of the more creative monsters in that movie.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. I love that creativity and stuff like that in movies.
Now, I am a sucker, whether it's an A+ movie, triple or a schlock fest.
Mm-hmm.
I am a sucker for a creature movie.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's a guy in a suit or CGI. I just like creatures.
Yep, always.
Now, being a gamer, have you been watching The Last of Us?
Yes, amazing.
Did you play the games?
So I haven't played the games, but I've watched
multiple.
No, I've watched multiple. So I'm an Xbox guy, but I've watched multiple. So like God of War, Last of Us, big PlayStation titles. I watch and I'll plug them. The Rad Brad playthroughs, basically walkthroughs, and I've watched that so many times. Right. So I know exactly what's going to happen and everything. So honestly, I wish I'd never played the games or not played them, but watched that. So I didn't know what was going to happen. So it'd be a different experience. But Last of Us, I feel like it has a chance to rival The Walking Dead if it continues the way it's going.
Oh, I think it's 100 times better than The Walking Dead.
Well, so my thing is The Walking Dead's 7 or 8 seasons or something,
right?
Something like that. The Last of Us, I'm not sure has that stretch, but we'll see. I don't know if it can have a story made for that though. Right, but that would be the only thing that would hold it back from knocking The Walking Dead off, just as the most iconic zombie or type show ever. But to me, it's the best show out in the past few years, hands down.
Yeah, and having played the game, there's a lot of those, Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yep,
Right?
moments. Yep.
Now, Nick, as someone else who's played the games, let me ask you, because knowing what's going on, it actually enhanced watching it for me because the narrative is so good and Neil Druckmann and his team do such a great job with the storytelling that the beats you already know are coming still hit you hard.
Oh yeah.
Yep. For me, it was a little different. Like playing the game and watching the show. For me, what happened at the beginning of the season, I knew what would happen, but that hit me really hard in that first episode.
Mm-hmm. It is because it's a kid. It's tough.
Mm-hmm. What happened? What happened in this last episode, I knew was coming also, but having played the game and getting attached to those characters, playing through the game and making those choices, the end of the game was brutal. Brutal. This episode was bad. I mean, not bad in a bad way, but I mean, like it gut punch, but not as much as playing the game and having made the choices.
Right. Yeah, I enjoyed that they showed the whole because at first I was like, oh, this is going to be a copy paste step by step of the game, and then they hit us with that Bill episode, and that whole thing wasn't even in the game, and I was like, okay, this show is to the moon at this point. So,
well, that and man, the casting on that show so phenomenal. Like I was worried, I'm like, because I don't know about you, Nick. I was like, how do you capture Joel and Ellie? First, they're played by great people, and I thought the cameos of the people in the show were brilliant. Like Ashley Johnson in this last show, who played Ellie in the games as her mother, which wasn't in the game.
That was perfect.
The additional scenes were great. The things they added made sense. That was incredible. But
you have the dad of the year though playing Joel. You have the greatest father of all time, Mando, playing Joel. So he's already
Joel's a hard character to play.
Oh, agreed.
Like there's complexities in his character, and Pedro Pascal does it like it's easy.
Yeah, and coming from a show where he just keeps his helmet on 24/7, where he doesn't have to portray that emotion and those facial features and stuff, murders it. He's killing the game right now.
In that hospital scene, you understood everything without him saying a word.
Oh,
sorry, Nick, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead, buddy.
It could be dad of the year or the worst dad ever.
Both. Yep, it could be either way.
But
so
any
good.
show he's on is golden, though.
It is. I've also got it queued up. I think it's the immeasurable weight of something pressure with Nick Cage.
The one with Nick Cage, yeah.
I got it queued up for this weekend because me and the girl are both off, so we're going to be binge watching a bunch of stuff.
I still got to see that too. And he had made a little sci-fi movie. I can't remember the name of it right now. I own it. That was really good as well.
Yeah, he's smart, man. Just be at the best of be in the top shows and be in the movies for a couple of years, and then you can just retire and be good.
Right. Well, and it was hilarious because he looks so much different now because, obviously you saw him on Game of Thrones, and he was like a throwaway character on an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh, that's right.
Law and Order also.
Yep.
I didn't know he was in Law and Order. I knew his cameo in Buffy.
Actors, but now he's the man.
Yeah, for real.
But when you hear the guy talk too, and this is what I love, is like you're completely endeared to him as a person as soon as he opens his mouth.
The passion, he seems like a very passionate actor. You can tell by everything he says.
Now, being a gamer, what are your favorite game to TV or movie adaptations? Like for me, I love the Tomb Raiders, all of them. I don't care.
So this tattoo you see is the Halo symbol for that. That is my main game that got the Halo and everything. So for me, it would be the Halo TV adaptation. I thought that was amazing. I know it got a lot of flack because it wasn't like The Last of Us step by step for the game. But I, as somebody who played Halo for my entire life since I was 12 years old, I wanted something new. I wanted something fresh. So I thought that show killed it. I'm glad it's coming back for a second season. So, them having the original actor play Cortana and stuff, I loved it.
Yeah, they lost me after game 3.
Yeah, I hope. I also hope Gears of War also gets a movie or a show or something like that. That would be absolutely epic.
I think it's inevitable, especially when you're
Hmm.
seeing how well done game adaptations are
Yep,
starting to be now.
I love
You're
it.
seeing this. I mean, I think The Last of Us is going to open the door. Not to
That's
go back
yep.
to The Last of Us, but I think that's going to open the door for a lot of adaptations now.
The whole entire Elder Scrolls franchise, Skyrim and everything, that could go on forever and be like the next Game of Thrones type thing.
Well, and I think what The Last of Us is now is this generation's Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, which opened the door
Hmm.
for a flood of movies. Because you
We're
had a little bit
getting
in the movies with Christopher Reeve's Superman, then
mhm.
'89 Batman, but then people still
Super
wanted to
Super
not
Super
give him
Mario Bros. Can't forget about that.
Mario Bros. I'm trying to forget about it. Stop bringing it up.
I love it, dude. I love that movie, man. It's
Well,
so
there's nothing
bad.
wrong with it. I mean, come on.
Right.
What about the Street Fighter and Mortal
Awesome.
Kombat?
Jean-Claude Van Damme, man, kills it.
Yeah, and I saw what was the one too with Emmanuel Kriku in it? That was Street Fighter, right? That was a
'Cause I think there was 2 or 3 Street Fighters. I'm pretty sure.
yeah.
hmm But they just dropped a new Dungeons and Dragons movie too.
Mm.
hmm
With
Now,
Yeah.
Chris Pine.
did you like the cartoon as a kid? Because that was one of my favorite cartoons, the Dungeons and
Dungeons and
Dragons.
Dragons. I didn't. So as a kid, I dabbled into like Dungeons and Dragons and things like that, and kind of the whole fantasy thing. But I didn't really blow up into fan loving the fantasy aspect of like elves and stuff until like Lord of the Rings dropped and like Skyrim came out, the original like Elder Scrolls and stuff.
Now, you know what I'd like to see is a Diablo movie or a TV show.
I am the hypest for the new game. Diablo is one of my top 5 favorite franchises of all time, and I am beyond. I have the Ultimate Edition pre-ordered. I'm so
Yeah.
That
excited.
first and
Next
second
week?
game, I played
week
them
it comes
until I
out?
couldn't play them
hmm
anymore. Hundreds of hours
No. I think next week's the beta comes out.
for
hmm
for Diablo 4.
So good, dude. It's so good. It's gonna be so good.
Now, when
But
you play
yeah,
games, are you the barbarian? Are you the cleric? Are you the bone?
so I like to have friends, man. So I'm normally like a necromancer or something. I like summoning.
Oh, Callie and David, good evening, sir. He didn't know there was a new Diablo game coming out. Yes,
Yes.
sir.
It is completely open world, and just watch a YouTube video on it, and when they explain it and when you see the graphics for it, bro, it's gonna blow your mind.
And like Chop and
Yes.
Drop,
Same.
I'm a
Same.
big fan of the Resident Evil movie.
Too.
First of all, if you put Mila Jovovich in something, I'm a fan of it anyway. But I also like the new movie they did of Resident Evil. I thought was really good.
hmm
And
Yeah,
I
there's
enjoyed the TV show they had put on Netflix. I thought was well done too.
oh yeah,
Which
me too.
people complained about, but I
Hated
thought it was
it.
a great new direction. I thought it was
I
awesome.
enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. There's a couple animations on Netflix. I think you just mentioned on Resident Evil, but Resident Evil is about to explode. Capcom just had a whole press conference. There's like 6 or 7 Resident Evil games about to be coming out. Resident Evil 4 is getting completely remade that people are losing their mind about, and then there's like 5 or 6 new ones that are dropping. So people are going crazy for Resident Evil right now. I'd love to see more Silent Hill movies too because I love those.
Yeah, that I love the first Silent Hill movie. The second one, not so much.
Kind of went
I
off the
really
rails a little
love
bit.
that first one.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, that second game was terrifying, and I could not put it down whatsoever.
Yeah, dude, they were scary games as kids, man.
All right, so for both of you, what was the scariest games you each ever played? That just was
Dead
tough.
Space, bro. Dead Space. The first time ever playing Dead
So
Space.
much fun. I played that over and over and over again. I just got my kid into it. Nick,
That was perfect.
It's tough to say. Silent Hill 2 with those nurses was terrifying. But playing the original Resident Evil for the first time and having like dogs jump through the window at you was
Terrifying.
by far, terrifying.
My first, if you wanna really go to the core of it, my first memory of being scared in like a game or anything was Mario 64, and it was the level where you had to swim and you were in water, and there was a huge like creature you had to fight in the dark water. Terrified me as a kid. I was like 5 or 6, and I hated swimming in that water.
Ooh, you sound like. Thank you, Dr. Von Hoop.
Nice.
DVH.
And DVH will be on an extra special episode of the 10-1-1 this Saturday.
Nice.
Now with the games too, I just like that they're being taken more serious. Now, as a genre guy with having the influences that you have, I got to ask you about one of my favorite franchises on Netflix. And what do you think about Stranger Things?
Again, if you had to put that in a list of every show of all time, easily top 10. I don't know where it ranks because there's so many bangers, but Stranger Things is so amazing, and I cannot wait for more.
And I love this last season, especially because it just went so much darker.
Oh, yes.
And I know families are watching that with their kids, but when you get to that first murder scene and it twists up the body, I'm like, oh, people are going to check their kids out of this season.
I was, like I said, big Vecna fan, so they pulled him straight out of Dungeons and Dragons, so I was like, yes.
Nice. Now, let's get back to your YouTube channel a minute. So what actually made you start a comic book YouTube channel? Like, I know you touched on it, like it was a positive thing, but you're new into comics and you thought you would have enough content. And how did you pair that up with positivity? Like, how did those two come together for you? And having your Friday positivity shout outs and just a combination of comics and positivity. Where did that mold come from?
So I think that's a great point that I like to touch on. So again, shout out to Scotty SVaughan82. So if it wasn't for meeting him on the Comic Book Corner Facebook group and then him inviting me to, like I said, Brian LCS was the first YouTube person I met in this comic book community. And I hung out there for one Saturday, and then that's when I met a bunch of different people, and I realized that there were so many different genres and smaller people all interacting with each other and all making YouTube content. And I was like, wow, these guys are always talking with each other. They're all hanging out with each other in their lives. It's not just, making a YouTube video and then dipping. It's like a big family. So I've always wanted to make YouTube content because back in the day, I've come from kind of a dark place and with demons and depressions, and YouTube was one of the biggest things that got me through. A few channels that I've watched for years, if it wasn't for them and being able to watch that content, I never would have made it through. So that's kind of the mindset I had with starting my YouTube videos. It's not about subscribers. It's not about any of that. For me, as long as one person watches one of my videos, one person comments on one of my videos, that means my message, my passion is getting spread. Every time somebody subscribes, that's one more person I can reach out to. And hopefully I can, help them through a bad day. If they're having a dark place in their life, they can watch one of my videos and, it can turn their day around or even life around. You never know. And
how long ago did you post your first video?
My first video. So in 2020, I got 2 Funko Pop hauls from like a Comic Con because I was really big into Funko Pops. I had like 800 or 900 before I sold all of them. Wow. And I sold them all basically to kind of fund my new hobbies and move out of the apartment I was at the time. And I totally lost my train of thought. What? What were we talking about?
When was your first comic book video?
First comic book video, dude? Mm-hmm. It was like August of last year. August or October, I think was right when I found the comic community. And then like a week or two after that, I just started posting videos on my phone, just kind of on the stand upstairs, just showing my hauls. Super simple and short.
Yeah, because what I took note, especially of how quickly you got to be integrated into our little family. I guess it's your overwhelming positivity and the message you're sending out.
And that's
caught everybody.
Literally, I have it all queued up, and my theme for my video tomorrow is acceptance, and that is one of the biggest things I'm going to talk about. Is just being accepted by all you guys. And you, like I said, I moved out of my hometown a few years ago, so my real life friends, we kind of grew apart, and our hobbies and our interests kind of didn't match. Everybody having families and stuff like that. So you guys are like my friends. I interact with you guys. I spend hours talking to you guys every day. Everything's a big family. Can't wait for Heroes Con. Can't wait to meet everybody for real.
Yes, Nicholas.
Nothing.
I wish I could, buddy. There is a comic fest coming to Rochester though. If you can make it, travel is tough for me. It really is, especially with being a by myself dad now, and with work. It's just really difficult.
It might just have to be an old school situation where a van pops outside of your work and you're just abducted.
Hop in.
Well, I mean, if I'm abducted, there's not much I can do about
Oh,
that.
then again, I'm a little scared of Gary B too. So forget I just said
We
that.
just got to bring candy, bro.
And
Candy and Conan comics.
Yeah, it's like not so much a candy. I'm diabetic. I'll lose my feet by the time I get to the van. I'm already short enough as it is. I don't need to lose the feet too. Well, and speaking of making the friendships, right? Like, I remember the first time Nick called me from the comic store he was at. I was like, really? I'm like, he must have butt dialed me. Nope, it was Nick. Hey, Gary, look at this. I found this, and I was like, then you start getting the sense that you know what, you are actually making real friendships on here.
Yep.
Like, I know you guys haven't seen Small Town Collectibles on YouTube in a while, but I just talked to that the other day.
That's 100% how I felt when you called me on Instagram, reaching out to me about chatting around his comics and the Walking Dead books. I was like, is he? I was at work. I was like, is he butt dialing me? Like, what the hell's going on?
No, because I saw you mention it on your show, so I'm like, oh, there's a whole bunch here. I'll just give Derrz a call and see if he wants.
Yes, sir. And then now I got a relationship with him, so I'm greatly appreciated for that.
Yeah, you guys let me know if you guys want Gary B's real life phone number or address. You let me know, and I'll just give it to you. No problem.
Okay, we'll mob. We'll just straight mob up there.
I'm gonna post it on my YouTube channel soon. So,
right.
No, there's a couple boys who lives in New York. Who else? But we got Brian, DJ, a couple other people. They can all mob.
Yeah, and one of my buddies that is on here once in a while, Geekspot. He's a fellow Rochesterian. Plus, you have Zach's Collections, a card guy who has a fun and great channel and super nice dude. He's also in Rochester, but Rochester is a big comic little city. There's just a lot to do with comics here. And that's good and bad, because it's good because they're always available. It's bad because everybody knows what they're worth, and it's really hard to get a deal.
Yep. Yeah, I'm the only one. I'm in Northern Ohio. Bearded Comic Bro, he's in Southern Ohio, and I think Biggie Shack, he's in like Southeast Ohio as well.
Yeah,
that just killed me with the memes. Got balloons, and then we've got comics down here.
I'd be coming. You show me some Spawn comics, I'm coming.
Yeah, Hoarder's Hide is in Ohio also.
Oh, nice.
Now with I had a question, then I totally forgot it because we were going off in that direction. So we got the positivity thing, and which you made a point of integrating that into your channel.
Mm-hmm.
But like us, I think Nick and me and a bunch of other guys spoke about this. The cool thing about this is we have other people to talk comics about. We didn't have anyone else in our regular life that we can talk one-on-one. Like, you read that great story, you can't go to your buddy, dude. Did you
exactly? Yep.
Well, do you have someone like that in your life, in your personal life, where you talk comics that shares the hobby, or are there people on here?
So I have a buddy who lives in my hometown. Like I said, after moving out of my hometown, I kind of lost connections with a bunch of people I went to high school with, like we all do. But he has his own YouTube channel, and he does interviews with Kickstarter comic creators and stuff like that. But I don't really talk personally with them or anything. But 100%, if I'm reading something in comics, the first thing I'm doing is going on Instagram to the group chats and talking there, throwing it out to you guys. That's the first people I want to communicate with and interact with when it comes to this culture,
Right. Or you see that sweet cover and you got to share it with somebody. Did you see that?
Yes, sir. And then you love that everybody else has the same interactions or has the same passions, or they can talk about it. And then even better when somebody can give me some information like, oh, did you know, like, shout out to Beckerman, he'll message me, he'll be like, hey, did you know so and so worked on this, and then he'll go into a whole history lesson. And those are things I need, is those old school history lessons.
Well, and that's the thing. There's so many people on this. Everyone has a different area that they know a lot about.
Yep.
Hey, if you want to talk art, you go to Beckerman.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk? Well, you can also go to Mad Spidey for that too. He is well versed. Mad
Yep.
Spidey is
A lot of people are.
just incredible.
Superman, I'm going to Mark. Conan, I'm going to
DC,
you.
You just go to Mark.
Mm-hmm.
Or
Slabs,
Paul.
I'll go to Nick or Rob or somebody like that.
Zach, we were just talking about you, sir. Boyd, good evening. But yeah, great stuff. So the positivity. So you knew right away that you needed that to be a part of whatever you're doing on YouTube.
Yep.
And now, what gave you that positive break in your life? Because you said you had dealt with a lot of negative. So usually, once you go and you start embracing the positive, usually there's someone that helped that out for you,
right,
and turn you towards that positive event. Is that something you care to talk about, or?
Yeah, dude, I'm always open. I've talked about it on Scotty's channel before. I come from a background. I had a single mom, so I kind of rebelled a lot when I was in high school. I had good grades, I graduated on time, all that stuff. But in my side time, I just like to party, man. I like to drink. I like to, not do too. I wasn't, do like hurting anybody or doing anything like that. But I was a kid, man. I like to party. And then as I got into my late teens and like my early 20s. I've talked about it before. I developed a really bad coke habit for a few years, and basically just partying, kind of spiraling out of control. And that's when I had my firstborn son and everything, and that kind of changed the partying ways and stuff like that. And I basically quit drinking. I quit doing cocaine. I quit smoking. I did all that. And I was single for a few years and everything, and, just kind of going through the motions. But now I'm with my current girlfriend. We have a house. I have a good job. Everything's going great. We have a great family. And I just always want to stay on that positive mindset. I come from, like I said, I was kind of bullied in high school. I was always the popular kid, but I was always hanging out with the misfits. Those were the kids always getting bullied, kind of being picked on. So I was always hanging out with them. And I just kind of always want to be that light for somebody. You never know what somebody's going through. Somebody like me, who's very positive and stuff like that. You'd never know if I'm having a crappy day unless I'm going to reach out to you and be open and honest about it. So you just always got to treat people with respect. There's a lot of hate in the world, especially after COVID and everything going around. So we just got to kind of find this small little niche. And for me, what I think about is there's so many of us in the comic community. Think of if all of us had the same, like the CBC awards and like C2E2 and Comics Curing Cancer. You see the type of support those things can have. And there's not a lot of us, but we have a big voice in the world. So if we're all on the same page and we're all kind of have that same mindset, who knows what we can kind of accomplish, Well,
it's true. And in this day and age, so I'm a lot like you, where it's all about the positivity, and I get most of my positivity from YouTube, because I get a lot of negativity. Now, over this last year, I probably the last year was probably the worst year I had in my whole entire life. But throughout that whole year, I never lost track of moving forward and being positive. And being in this community, and people will say it and not mean it, but I mean, it saves you on the day.
100%.
Just like the interactions, or just, even like this dude here, which, we all bust each other's balls, but there's times that will just reach out, say hi, or just, hey man, you need something, all that stuff. It just, if you're in a bad spot for a minute, that could change the whole outlook of that entire day, and now you can get through it.
Exactly. I say all the time, ever since meeting you guys and ever since being part of the community, it's been life-changing for me. The past year for me has been some of the best mindset and best connections and best outlooks I've had in a long time. Because, I'm the type of person that will just fall through the motions and kind of, wake up, go to work and stuff like that. But doing this and being involved in this gives me that kind of sense of purpose that I was kind of lacking.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? I call it adulting. Adulting sucks, right? When you have to get
Yes.
up, you have to do your job. You got your daily things you got to do, which are to take care of life. But this is the hobby. And not only the hobby, but this is like and I always equate this when we're doing lives and we're hanging out with people. This is like the new local bar, right? Where you're
For
hanging
real.
out with your buddies and you're having your conversations, you're bullshitting,
Hmm.
and you're just getting to know each other a little bit better. Um, but let's go to Lady Derrz a second.
Okay.
Now we've learned about the positivity. Does she also collect, or does she just support that you collect? Because it's one way or the other. Usually, when someone's with someone, they either collect as well, or they don't care at all about it.
So I wouldn't say she doesn't care, because she does support. She always if I say, man, I got a couple videos I need to edit or film, she gives me that motivation. She says, hey, stop kind of what you're doing, take that time to go do those things. But before we met, she wasn't really into anything of the culture. Now she's a huge Star Wars fan. Now she likes all the Marvel MCU. She likes all that. She doesn't really collect comics, but the one thing she does collect now is Lego Harry Potter. She's a big Harry Potter person, but she's recently, for Christmas, I got her first big Lego Harry Potter set. She loved it, and now I randomly kind of buy her, forming the big castle thing for her. So it's all displayed kind of like how I have the stand here. She took my other stand that I have, and now it's all Harry Potter Lego stuff. So that's what she collects. Yeah, yeah. But it's good because I want her to have her own little hobby. She likes displaying them. She likes messing with them and stuff like that. And it's something she can be proud of. So I enjoy that.
Legos are cool, but man, there are a lot of patience when you're getting into those big builds. You're looking at
For real.
hours and hours.
Yep. My whole son has a glass detail of them all upstairs as well. So it's kind of the Lego area.
Nice. Well, then as a dad, you've experienced the stepping on Legos phenomenon.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Worst pain ever. Oh,
yep.
goodness.
Agreed.
Now, as we're approaching the hour mark, I want to talk a little bit more about what's going to be the future of your channel. Are you looking at creating anything new, or just holding steady with what you're doing? What have you got plans for?
So recently, shout out to Brian LCS. I won his 1K giveaway, and I was already at the cusp. I had a couple of laptops I was already eyeing, but he reached out to me and he's like, hey, I'm giving away a couple of laptops for my giveaway, so just kind of hold off. So I held off, and me and Scotty, we won his giveaway. So that's what I've been rocking, and I didn't really have time to edit and everything like that. I had COVID and I was sick for like 2 or 3 weeks, but now I'm finally getting comfortable with editing, and hopefully you guys can tell the difference in my videos. I'm starting to get comfortable with like my intros and outros and like all the editing stuff. So it's very soothing to me. I like, I'll stay like tonight after I go upstairs, hang out with the girl. She falls asleep. I'll come back down here, throw on some music, and just edit the night away. And it sucks staying up, but it's also very, like I said, it's also kind of an escape for me. It helps me focus, and it helps me do stuff like that. So I'm really trying to concentrate on that. I want to get more slabs this year. I don't really have goal books. I kind of fly by the seat of my pants, but I want to knock out stuff like that. I'm really focused on reading more DC, because that's where I lack all my knowledge. So I'm really focused on reading like Superman, Batman, all that stuff. And then basically just kind of evolving. I just want to stay here, hang out, subs or whatever. I got a logo in the works here this weekend or next weekend. I'll be getting that going. And if I ever hit 1K and get monetization, man, it all goes back to the community. So I might do a charity or something like that. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I'm just hanging out, man.
Sounds like a plan.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with the moving forward thing, you've been coming up pretty quick, so your channel's doing pretty good for itself.
Mm-hmm.
You got a good thing going over there, and especially with the editing, which I'm not great at.
It's hard.
And editing, I think, is one of those things you really got to enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
When I film a video, I just want to get it out there. I actually hate spending time editing.
That's how I was, dude. It was a chore. I just wanted to edit. A lot of my videos, they're one takes. I'll just raw it, I like keeping that raw take, but I'm really enjoying, kind of putting that intro and outro in, doing the kind of jump cuts and stuff like that, being able to kind of just clean it up a little bit. And for me, after I'm done, I actually watch my videos for the first time and I feel proud of it. It's small things like that, and it really helps my mindset. And it's just little things like that you got to kind of take day by day.
Well, it's nice. And a lot of you new guys, your first videos aren't that bad. When I go back and I watch my first stuff, I don't want to watch it. It's horrible.
It's the time. It's the time. Because like my first video, I was on a $1,000 phone with a 4K camera, 1080p, all that. So I didn't have to worry about it being, grainy or anything like that. But if it was 3 or 4 years ago, the phones and stuff like that are totally different. So in 2 or 3 years, the phones are going to be even better and stuff like that. So it's just the day and age we live in, for real.
Yeah, I didn't even want to show my face on the first one.
Yeah, it took me so long. I didn't show my face for months until somebody's like, "Hey man, we'd love to see your face. We'd love to see you talk about things. We'd love to see that." And I was just like, "All right, man, here we go."
See, I just jumped in right away. I'm like, I already knew I was ugly, so that I was already comfortable with that. So I just jumped on. So everybody else may as well see it too.
Dude, it's just me. I get nervous. I get nervous before lives. Like even my own live every Sunday, I got to do my ritual beforehand. It's just me with anxiety. It's just kind of how I am. I'm kind of high strung sometimes, but once I get going, I smooth out a lot better.
See, I don't know, Nick. I don't know about you, but like lives don't bother me at all. Like the first one, I was nervous. After that, I'm like, all right, no big deal. The only thing I worry about is like technical issues. Like if we have a storm and all of a sudden I might get bleeped out, and then I'm worried about the show not going on. Mm-hmm. Where I feel the pressure is the obligation to the people watching. Right? If I'm going to have a show on, my first obligation is to the guest. Mm-hmm. Second obligation is to my co-host who came and joined me, and then and also the people who are watching. Mm-hmm. And then that's what I stress about. I don't stress about my part in it. I stress about how it's entertaining for those watching. That's
right.
So, like, going live doesn't stress me out. If people are entertained, stresses me out. Like, because you want to give them a good product, right? You want to give them something that's worth their time.
Of course.
And, but no, that's fantastic. So, what, as a young reader, is your favorite storyline in comics?
Currently or all time?
All time. Something you can go back and read over and over again.
Shout out to Mark, since this is very recent on my memory. I recently read Kingdom Come for the first time. That was fun. That was phenomenal. Absolutely loved that. I loved everything about that and being able to break it down. And then I still haven't read it because I'm just so far behind on my reading right now. I have Kraven's Last Hunt. I have the full omnibus and everything. I won that off Rob Fat Stax, or it was Chris's giveaway. He donated that. But I really want to read that because I've heard so much thing about it. But for me, I really just want to concentrate on reading those iconic stories. The Infinity Wars. I have the Secret Wars. Just all the iconic stories from throughout the years that I missed. Even leading up to like the 2000s and mid 2000s and stuff like that. I want to read all those and be able to conversate with those, because a lot of those events and stuff I just don't know enough about.
And there's a lot of storylines that don't get a lot of credit that were really good too. One of my all-time favorites is Camelot 3000, which I thought by Brian Bolland, which is I'll take out that trade and read it once every couple of years. And there's parts of it now that don't hold up as well now as it did then but I still love it. I don't care. If people read it and get mad, too bad for them. I love the book.
The one thing I'm currently reading that probably has the chance and potential to be one of the best storylines I've read is Invincible. I'm new to that show. I just found it in the past couple months on Amazon. I watched the whole show through, and I was like, oh my god! I was like, as an anime fan and stuff like that, and that kind of vibe, and an Image fanboy, I was like, how did I never hear about this? And it came out when I wasn't reading comics. So I have the first 2 trades. I've already read the first one, and I'm going to continue reading it. And if it keeps the pace of the show and everything, that's probably going to go down as one of the best storylines of all time.
Dude, for me, I read 3 omnibuy in like a week and a half.
So good, dude.
166 issues, I think.
Mm-hmm.
By
So
far, for
good.
me, it's the Breaking Bad of comic books. Perfect beginning, middle, and end.
Breaking
Throughout.
Bad's my favorite show of all time. Number one favorite show of all time is Breaking Bad.
And what about? So, did you like The Boys as well? Then
So again, another thing I completely missed out of. The Boys, one of the top 10 favorite shows of all time. I have the first 2 trades. I'm halfway through the first trade, and let me tell you, that is some of the most over. Like, you think the show's over the top and vulgar and demented.
right?
It has nothing on the comics, dude, and I love it. I love it.
Well, I don't know. 12 minutes into that last season of The Boys was pretty rough.
Oh yeah, but like, man, I just got through the issue where they're at the the Orgasmo house and everything, and it's wild, dude.
Oh. All right, now, is there any storylines coming up? Like you said, you're getting into DC and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and is there any other like independent studios, anything like that you missed in the past that you're looking to explore as well? Because there was a lot of great indie studios that were around and out and aren't around
Mm-hmm.
anymore. Or some of the classics. Like, are you only going as far back as like Bronze Age? Or are you looking to get into any Silver Age storylines?
It can be anything. Anything somebody recommends, if I can get their trades. There's another Justice League versus Avengers. I've never read that. I've been seeing Mark keep flashing the iconic Superman cover where he's got Mjolnir and Captain America's shield, and I'm just like, that looks so cool. I want to read that. Twig, I've heard a bunch of great things about, so I want to read that. Like I said, man, I'm like a sponge at this moment. I'm very passionate. I've always been passionate about the whole comic culture and the whole universes and everything. It's just been a shame that I was doing other things instead of collecting for all those years. But at this point, I just want to learn as much as I can, as quickly as I can.
Yeah, it's going to be tough too, especially if, like you said, you want to delve into DC.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking essentially like almost 100 years of history there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Yeah.
going to be extremely rough. And I don't know if a lot of it applies today, but yeah, don't get too bogged down. Just get what you can. I mean, we're all behind in reading, I would say. So
Yeah, for real.
take
For
your
real.
time.
Yeah.
And all of us in this hobby have those major storylines we've missed out on, regardless of if it's something going on in our life or just didn't connect with us at the time.
Mm-hmm.
There's major storylines I've never picked up and read.
Yeah, I missed
tomorrow.
I missed the entire like Ultimate Universe saga and everything, like all the Miles stuff and everything. The current Miles run is the first Miles I'm reading. I will shout out that Vanish is currently my number 1 book, and I don't see anything coming close to that in a while.
Yeah. Vanish was surprising. I thought it was just going to be like another cash grab, but it was pretty good. It's been pretty good.
I'm biased as a Spawn fan, though, because it reminds me of early 90s, mid 90s Spawn. I love everything. March 22nd can't come fast enough. It's the new. It's been gone for like 3 or 4 months. It took a break. Okay. Mm-hmm, yeah. Vanish, and also I just read Clear for the first. I just finished Clear today, and that was phenomenal. New Image book as well.
Now, as a Spawn fan, did you watch that original movie?
Of course, original movie and cartoon, man.
TV series, and you know that Todd has another one in the works, right? An updated Spawn movie.
So my big thing in collecting, I'm not really a spec guy. Everything I buy, I'm gonna keep forever. But my big, like, son go to college fund is I just want Todd McFarlane, before I die, to come out with this movie with Jamie Foxx and everything that he's producing. So when this movie comes out, all my Spawn books can finally skyrocket, Even though I'm not going to sell them, but that's one of my goals in life, to have every raw issue of Spawn from 1 to current.
It's funny too, because in the 90s, those books were mass printed. There was no shortage of any comic in the early 90s.
Yeah, yep. It killed me to buy another issue of Spawn 1 when I know I had 10 copies back in the day.
Yeah, I just got my slab one because I have my original Spawn from my childhood. I was going to send it to the McFarlane signing, but like 2 weeks before the McFarlane signing, my like whole car, I needed to fix my transmission and stuff, and of course that took priority, so I had to do all that. So I wasn't able to send anything in, so I just got the Spawn 9.4, so I'm happy to have that.
Todd Sig ain't cheap.
Oh, no.
All right, so we're at the hour 5-minute mark. We'll start wrapping this up, and we won't. And Remy just started his show, so we'll let people get over there to watch Remy too. But we'll do last questions. So Nick, do you have anything last that you want to ask him?
All right, so Mr. Derrz, if you have the chance to be written or drawn into any specific comic book panel issue character, who would it be? What would you say? What would you be doing?
I think it would have to be in definitely like a 2099-esque comic book, in the future, because again, 90s kid, 2099, all the foil, all that stuff was everywhere. But also, I'm a big Cyberpunk fan coming from gaming. So Cyberpunk, huge fan, huge Keanu fan and everything. So I think it would definitely be kind of in that retrospective where it'd be in like a Cyberpunk-esque world in the future, but it would be kind of kind of a Ready Player One type vibe, kind of like Clear is. I've always loved that movie. I loved that visionary. I hope gaming and culture one day can get to that point. So I think it would be something like that, but at the same time, it would be a drug-fueled, balls to the wall type action comic.
Nice.
All right, for my last question, and I love to know what people's guilty pleasures are. So I want to know what your guilty pleasure movie is, your guilty pleasure read, and guilty pleasure song.
So my guilty pleasure movie is, wrong arm. I had the camera backwards. So Too Weird to Live, Too Rare to Die. Final quote from Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. That is my all-time favorite movie, hands down. So anytime I want to watch like kind of a guilty pleasure movie, it would be that one. And then you said song and what else?
Read.
My guilty pleasure read would be my Halo novels. I have a few of the Halo, like actual novels, no pictures, no nothing.
Right.
Just kind of talks about the universe of Halo and stuff. That's what I kind of read. I've read them a couple times, but if I want to dive into something that I've read a bunch, I'd read that Ready Player One book. That sounds dope. My guilty pleasure song would be I'm a huge old school hip hop guy and rap guy, but when it comes to just kind of guilty pleasure or vibing out, I love 80s music. So it's got to be some like synth wave or like synth wave vibes or something like that, or some retro outwave, not really EDM, something nice and chill. And that's what I go to. Like if I'm driving long distances or something like that, put on like a 2 or 3 hour synth wave playlist and just vibe out.
Nice. All right, so we'll go around the horn real quick. And Nick, what's coming up for you, sir?
I got a couple of shorts I put out today, some new comic book day, some recent slab pickups. I do have a little show on Thursday afternoons, 1 p.m. Eastern, called Two Nerd Dads with my main man, Ignacio Demeglio. We talk about some random stuff, really, really random stuff. And we open it up to everybody if they want to come on, if they want to talk about something. And that's about it.
I'm always at work. I'm always at work when that show's live. I join. I hang out, but
me too. I'm always at work also.
Derrz, what's coming up for you, sir?
So right after this, I'm going to hang out with the girl for a little bit, and then I'm going to do my Friday Positivity video for tomorrow, which is going to be about acceptance, and where I really kind of break down and talk about my views and how thankful I am to be in this community and how it's like a family and everything. And then my channel is kind of random. I don't really have, the Monday, Wednesday, Friday theme, but I always drop at least 1 or 2 videos a week. I always have my Friday Positivity. I'm always going to continue to do my lives, which same thing as Nick, just kind of a hangout, talk about what's going on in culture, comics, and it's just kind of a way for me to kind of get more comfortable with lives before I can kind of make it kind of a real thing. And we'll just kind of see where it evolves. And can't wait for Heroes Con, man. That's what I'm really hyped about.
And in a couple weeks here on April 4th,
April
Derrz
4th,
will be
10/11. Yes, sir.
10/11.
Yes, sir.
So we'll get to see some old Spawn and Venom.
I got I don't know about so much Venom, but I got my books already ready to rock. Might be surprised by a few of them.
I'm hoping to be. It'll be fun. That's what I love that show because it's always a surprise. You never know what someone's going to bring.
Oh yeah, I love those shows. They're always the best.
Now, coming up for me this week, we of course will have part 2 of the Salimba stories I'm doing on Savage Saturday Comic Review. And also Saturday night, we are going to have Dr. Von Hoots doing the 1011. And Nick might know my host that night. It's going to be none other than Ignacio. Making his co-hosting debut on my channel. Was really happy. I reached out to him. He was more than happy to do it. I'm really excited to have Ignacio because Nick can't hog them all to himself.
I try.
And for those of you who don't know Ignacio, go check him out on Nick's channel and a Whack Comics channel. One of the smartest, nicest guys in this community.
Agreed. He's a great dude.
So we got that stuff coming up. So first of all, I want to thank the audience. We had a great audience in here tonight. Thank you, chat, for being so great. Thank you for tuning in. If you're watching on the rewind, also thank you. Adam, thanks for coming on and being a guest, dude. I really appreciate your time on the channel.
Always an honor, bro. Always an honor.
And Nick, whenever I get to hang out with you, it's a good night. Thank you very much, buddy, for coming in.
You're very welcome, Gary.
And guys, until next time, as we like to end these things, keep it casual.